I am Ironman. Yes. One of the greatest rock classics of the 70s with some of the most famous guitar riffs, Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. Symbolizing the main ingredient of this one, the new Chevrolet S10 Trail Boss. Here, look, I'll even wipe off the dust. The Trail Boss, which unlike its cheaper sister, but also with an off-road look, the Rodeio Z71 offers more than just looks and slightly beefier tires. Here we have the suspension with Ironman shock absorbers, even on the rear sticker here, look, to make it clear how proud Chevrolet is of this. Suspension by Ironman. What does that mean in practice? Well, we're talking about a pickup truck. 3 centimeters higher off the ground, also with Pirelli Scorpion AT tires. Here, a beefier tire, right? The Scorpion is a tire with a very tough shoulder. We'll talk a bit more about that while driving at high speeds here in Jalapão. So you have a pickup that does behave better off-road than any other S10 in history, right? Never has an S10 in the Brazilian market had so much standard off-road equipment. And standard equipment is one of the key words here. And what's the price tag, you ask? 341,000 reais. It becomes the second most expensive version of the S10. Still below the high country at 378 and above the LTZ and the Z70 won a big difference. Even in price compared to the Z71. And of course, well above the WT, the entry-level working truck. But why is this customization and accessorizing part so important? Basically, Chevrolet is suggesting here that you get from the factory things that a lot of people already add in the aftermarket, in the accessories market. So this Ironman kit, I did a quick search, is about 10,000 reais for you to put on your truck. The standard side step, the big roll bar comes standard. Starlink is not standard, is what we're having to use to find our way here in the middle of Jalapão. Here at the back, exclusive stripes, darkened logo, the bed accessories here, right? Including the bed liner. As for the modular features here, look, the slide so you can pull out heavy loads and so on. Several things that you can, or rather that most customers Chevrolet identified usually add in the aftermarket, they're now offering you from the factory with a factory warranty. And that's really interesting because I love these launch events, you know, when we talk to the marketing people so you can see how the automakers do research and really know the consumer. Look how interesting that is. So 87% of mid-size pickup truck consumers in Brazil say that the main reason for buying, for having a mid-size pickup as part of their lifestyle is adventure. I'm part of that group, I'm a mid-size pickup guy myself. Why do I have a mid-size pickup? Basically because I like to take long trips with my family, bringing my bike along. So I'm definitely in the adventure category. Do you know which is the biggest group? It's 36%. It's just like the king of the VIP box. It's about status. We're a third world country, right? We have a lot of underdeveloped mindsets. Having a big fancy truck parked in front of the club or restaurant matters a lot to many people. In a country as unequal as ours, where money means so much. If you add those two together, 36 plus 27, you have over 60%, right? Almost 2/3 of the pickup truck market isn't in the pickup truck market for the main reason pickups were created, which is work, right? So this more lifestyle crowd, that 60%, they accessorize a lot. They also make more changes, aesthetic changes to give even more status, right? So Chevrolet is delivering all of this in a package. And then if you do the math on what they're giving you in accessories versus the starting price, it's a pretty interesting value proposition. Man, the sun is blazing here in Jalapão. It's really hot this time of year, hitting 36 degrees here. But I say it's an interesting value proposition because really when we talk about the pickup truck market in Brazil, historically we're talking about the big three, right? Hilux, Ranger, and S10 currently in that order. They're always way ahead of the others in terms of volume. And today, with the Hilux Gazoo Racing discontinued because of ProConf and the Ranger Tremor hasn't arrived yet, well, Chevrolet is the only one that has a genuine off-roader to offer at prices not much higher than the segment average. Because the boss of the segment, by far, when it comes to performance and capability, is my Ranger Raptor, right? But that's a 500,000 real car. So while the Ranger Tremor hasn't arrived yet, which Ford already has lined up, and while the new Hilux hasn't come out with new versions, Gazoo, which will probably only happen in 2027, maybe 2028, well, Chevrolet is working alone in this niche for now. And then you notice that when it comes to the interior, right, you can see why it costs less than the high country here. Because you're getting the off-road suspension, the all-terrain tire, and you're paying less than you would for the high country. So what are you missing out on? You're missing a bit of interior refinement, right? You have the dashboard here with hard plastic right in the central area. You don't have a power seat, which is something that will be in another video, so stay tuned for the new Trailblazer High Country Midnight coming very soon. A special edition of the Trailblazer, only 100 units for now, which brings this same Ironman suspension to the Trailblazer. But while over there it's a special edition, here we have a regular production model, so to speak. And yes, it does bring some things. Internal customizations, right? You can see here the Trail Boss. But when it comes to interior refinement, you need to go for the high country if that's what you want from your S10. Of course, it brings everything that's most recent from the latest refresh, right? The multimedia system, OnStar, digital instrument cluster, leather on the steering wheel, which, oh my god, thank god, finally has telescopic adjustment. I can finally find a driving position in the S10, something I couldn't do for a long time. And as for the dynamic behavior, right? Yes, we still have the same here. 8-speed transmission, we're still up front here. Man, there's an oven mitt there. Because if you need an asbestos glove to lift this cover, it's probably on fire. Whoa, here it is, the glorious Duramax diesel 2.8, 4 cylinders, 52 kilogram-meters of torque, 207 horsepower. It can't really compete, right, in terms of numbers of performance with the V6s from the Ranger and the Amarok. But the S10 isn't that heavy, it's 2,100 kilograms, so it moves along well. Mainly thanks to the new transmission, we're talking about 0 to 100 in 9.4 seconds. So it's pretty quick, it just lacks a little bit more sophistication, right? When we look at the broader market, compared to the L200, right? Now, Triton officially doesn't have a center differential, right? The four-wheel drive without locking is 50 on each axle, and that's how it is. But, again, since the S10 platform isn't the newest platform on the market today, right? The Ranger comes with a much stronger platform. Chevrolet competes very aggressively on price. If you look at the cost benefit of this off-roader version, again I'll emphasize, until a Ranger Tremor or a new Hilux Gazoo arrives, the Trail Boss stands alone among the big three as an off-road option without spending so much, without breaking the bank. And yes, it's very well dialed in dynamically. Let's show that, you know how? In motion, accelerating hard here in Jalapão. Let's go. Look, I turned off the traction control, but the stability control stayed on. And it didn't let us do the big, beautiful burnout I wanted to do here. Big burnout, right? No, I guess not. A dance like Dustaltão because it raises a lot of dust, just like Ivete Sangalo here on the roads leading to Jalapão. If Jalapão had good access roads, it would be one of the most visited places in the world, right? The real problem with Jalapão is getting there, right? It's a 5-hour drive, most of it on dirt roads, leaving from Palmas, which is the nearest big city. But let's talk more about driving dynamics. Power! Here you can speed up a little. Look, 110. Cruising, just cruising on the dirt road. Let's talk about the driving dynamics of the S10 Trail Boss. The boss of the trail. It's an iconic name, right? Classic for off-road versions in the United States. I even mentioned it, right? We already in Chile drove a Silverado Trail Boss. More in the bed, right? Rescuing the mountain bike rather than in a cockpit. Yeah, and here we have the top dog, right? The alpha male when it comes to off-road in the S10 lineup. Because the Z71, even though Chevrolet doesn't say that explicitly, was more of an appearance package, right? Here, yes, with the Ironman suspension, we have something made for this, which is Brazilian off-road at its finest, right? The dirt road usually even worse than this one. So we're talking about a shock absorber that responds more quickly, right? Its rebound damping is quicker, so it follows the terrain better, and it also raises the suspension, so it gives more suspension travel. You have about 30 millimeters there, which is roughly 3 centimeters. Who doesn't have a use for 3 extra centimeters, right? Everyone can use 3 extra centimeters. So here, just with the shock absorbers front and rear, the car is raised. And I'll tell you, this difference in height is noticed instantly. As soon as you get into the trail bars, you say, whoa, the S10 got taller. This S10 here is a bit higher. Yeah. What's up? Of course. It's not to be confused. Wow. It's for this kind of hole hidden by dust. There's always an eternal dilemma here, right? Because you can't get close enough for the other driver to see that you want to pass. Yeah, without completely losing visibility. So in these stretches, patience. You have to slow down a bit here. And wait for the dust to settle, literally. But look, it's actually nice to show a little bit of the washboard road here, which is one of the reasons why Jalapão is so hard to access, right? If you drive slowly on the washboard road, it's actually worse, right? If you speed up on the washboard road, you hit a resonance frequency and you suffer a little less. But you do notice it, right? Yeah, a good comparison would be the work Toyota did on the first Hilux Gazoo models. Not the next one, right? The most recent one, which also came with the wider track. But they put in more off-road oriented shock absorbers, raised it a little, and yes, it does improve the handling, right? What's interesting too is that it doesn't noticeably worsen the handling on asphalt, right? The S10 is still easy to drive, the steering wheel here is thin and the steering is quick and even light. That's missing even more. So it seems to me, that's a good move by Chevrolet's engineering. By the way, the automakers, the big Brazilian automakers, right, the national ones, even Ford, now just an importer, still has a major engineering center, test track and more. Yeah, in the case of mid-size pickups, that's not such a common question, right? But in most segments, when you're considering a Chinese car, just know that it's easy for a Chinese car to be compared in dynamic behavior here in Brazil, precisely because they don't have that engineering work. We see here that there's a lot of man-hours from many engineers in GM's proving grounds to achieve this dynamic behavior, this balance, right? Between comfort, firmness, being a car that's enjoyable to drive, a car that inspires confidence when you're behind the wheel. When it comes to the mechanicals, right, it's the same S10 as ever these days. Just one powertrain, right? The S10 2.8 turbo diesel, Duramax diesel. That's another label, right? It's a label from the American market that Chevrolet also took a while to use in Brazil. Anything that comes from that pickup truck market, right? Everything that has an American flavor resonates with the vast majority of consumers, right? So this 2.8 has always been there, but now it's called the Duramax diesel, right? Well, not now. Since the last refresh, I think it's been used. Yeah, and it's an engine that, look at the jump. Whoa. Yeah, it's known for its torque, right? 52 kg. 200 horsepower nowadays is no longer a class-leading power. No, there's no doubt you won't confuse this 4-cylinder S10 with a Ranger V6 or an Amarok V6 when it comes to punch. But with this 8-speed transmission that also arrived more recently in the S10, we can say the whole package works well, right? They work well together and make the most of it, right? Let's slow down a bit here to let the dust settle. I wonder if I hold this little button here for a while, will the stability control also turn off? Is it possible to turn it off? Let me know in the comments. Hold it for a bit. There, the stability track is now off. Let's enjoy this. No one's behind us and we're out in the middle of nowhere in Jalapão. Check out that 52 kg of torque. Burnout, huge burnout. Whoa. Yeah. You've got to give this Pirelli Scorpion some credit, right? It found grip quickly. You see that even with 52 kg of torque and the bed empty, we didn't lose traction that much. Another exclusive feature, right? On this Trail Boss, the Trailblazer Midnight itself, which has the same Ironman shock absorbers, it uses Michelin tires, which are a bit more suited for asphalt, right? The Pirelli Scorpion, although I think it's less good looking and less smooth on asphalt, less comfortable than the G-Link. Bandit, which I have on my off-roaders, is a very well-known tire in the Brazilian off-road market, mainly because it has a heavily reinforced shoulder, right? So it's a tire that can handle this kind of abuse here really well. It's very unlikely you cut a Scorpion tire on a dirt road, unless it's in a really extreme situation. I'll ease off a bit here so I don't kick up so much dust. There's already the Sussuapara Canyon. We haven't been to the Sussuapara Canyon. João Del Arco, the hidden man, who will appear in a big collab on this channel. I'm going to kick the tail out a little here. Yeah, in the Trailblazer Midnight video, right? We're going to show the Trailblazer in detail too. But wave to me here, because in Brazil, Sertões, a great story on this channel. When we did Sertões in 2022, we spent a lot of time here at the attractions in Jalapão and the Sussuapara Canyon. Very beautiful canyon, I'm remembering it now. It's very enclosed with vegetation and all, even during the day or in the shade, right? Because it's a really deep crevice. Go check it out, it's really interesting. But that's one of the cool things about Jalapão, right? Unlike Chapada Diamantina or Chapada dos Veadeiros, the main attractions here are kind of along the main corridor. You don't have to go far from the BR, the main road. The people from Tocantins here are saying that there will be asphalt all the way to São Félix in Tocantins. I would put asphalt all the way to Mateiros, right? And then that's it. The roads inside the park can stay as dirt roads. Yeah, but moving on to our final conclusions here, it seems to me that yes, it's missing a power adjustable seat. For example, the High Country, which costs a bit more, has more features. And it seems like the most interesting value proposition in the S10 lineup today is this Trail Boss at 325,000 reais. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Hold on, let's dive deeper into this topic in the final conclusions. Time extended. Oh, this is the coolest part of off-roading in Jalapão, right? This soft sand with everything turned off, everything shaking, but not too much. The dust settles down a bit too. Let's see if we can slide sideways around the little curve here. We need more curves, Faco. But look, the Ironman suspension has been tested and approved here. And the rear end stepped out a little. Let's go. João Del Arco couldn't hold himself back here. Couldn't hold himself back. Final conclusions. Yes, I think the glorious Trail Boss is going to sell. It's also a strong brand, right? For pickup truck fans, for Chevrolet fans, the name Trail Boss has always been highly desired. We hadn't had it here in Brazil yet. Like I said, right, Ranger and Hilux, the arch rivals, don't have a version that really targets the S10. But we have other important players in our market. So the new Triton Savannah comes in with this approach, and the Frontier itself for the folks, for the 4x4 crowd, whatever you want to call it, which is also getting a bit outdated. It offers more or less the same kind of package. The Frontier is cheaper, it's a 318,000 car, but it falls short in performance compared to the S10. The Savannah is a more modern project today, but it's more expensive. It's a 350,000 vehicle. So in terms of dealership network coverage, for example, that Chevrolet offers, we can say that Mitsubishi can't really compete, right? For example, if you're here in Jalapão, in the middle of nowhere, with Palmas as your closest base, Chevrolet has more reach in these situations. So like I said, I think within the S10 lineup, I think it still sells well. Yeah, it's no longer a threat to fight for the lead, right? The Ranger, which is now going through this generation change, while the Hilux is getting older and the Ranger is still the freshest in the segment, the Ranger is starting to challenge, even surpass the Hilux. In retail, not in total, but in retail. But the S10 remains in a strong third place, not challenging those ahead or being challenged by the Frontier, L200 or Amarok. And I think our glorious Trail Boss has everything it takes to become one of the best-selling versions and, besides being one of the best-selling, one of the versions with the highest margin. Right, because it adds a lot of value with features that are basically off the shelf. And the looks match really well too. I think it's the best looking of the current S10 versions. Do you agree? Disagree? Let us know in the comments. Leave a like on this video because that helps us a lot. Tell us which camp you're in when it comes to Brazil's mid-size pickups. If you would consider the Trail Boss or another option, I want to see a lot of debate in the comments. And as always, thank you so much. Take care of yourself and big hugs. Now, let's go look for Fervedouro to cool off because Jalapão in July, my friends, is not for everyone. Thanks a lot.